Hello everyone from Meat Lover Channel. Today I'm going to share with you a story that turned my marriage upside down. It all started when my husband finally told me his greatest desire, something he had been hiding for years. When he opened up, our relationship was never the same. What he revealed completely changed the way we connected in bed and brought a fire between us that I never imagined I would feel. My name is Amber. I'm 34 years old, and I live in Grand Island, a vibrant and beautiful city in Nebraska, perfect for family life. I'm married to Henry, a man of 35 and 6. We've been together for 7 years, and we live very well in a comfortable house located near the Oasis Island Water Park, a very quiet and pleasant area of the city. My life is very peaceful and, in a way, full of privileges. I don't have to worry about bills at the end of the month. My day-to-day life seems like a dream. I wake up early, dedicate myself to pleasing my husband, something that is part of our routine, then prepare a special breakfast and then do what gives me pleasure. I usually spend some time at the gym to keep fit, and I also take the opportunity to meet up with some friends. These outings help me relax and keep up to date with what's going on in the city. Meanwhile, my husband is working. He has an electronic cigarette company. His routine is very intense. He's out all day, but this provides us with a comfortable and very peaceful life. Our lifestyle is stable, with no major pressures. We live surrounded by comfort, and our relationship, at first glance, seems to be in perfect harmony. However, as in any marriage, small disagreements do arise from time to time. My husband's family all live in Rapid City, a town that is quite famous, especially for Mount Rushmore. They are very well off, all with their own businesses or successful careers without any major money worries. I've always got on well with them, but I can't say that we're really close. We see each other very little, usually at end-of-year parties, and even then, not all of them show up. Since they have a comfortable financial life, they end up preferring to travel to exotic destinations or spend their vacations in luxurious places rather than having family gatherings. Not that I think it's bad, but it's quite different from what I was used to before I married Henry. For them, having parties at home is considered disorganized, and many prefer to avoid it. That's why we only get together a few times a year when everyone manages to align their schedules or thinks it's worth spending Christmas or New Year's together, which, to be honest, is rare. But even on these few occasions when we do get together, the atmosphere is always pleasant, full of smiles and relaxation, as if the time apart didn't affect the relationship. Our closest relative is Tyler, my husband's twin brother. They are identical, and this confused me a lot at the beginning of our relationship. It was hard to know who was who, not least because they share the same quirks and tastes. They're both the same height, they both have the same smile, even the way they walk is the same. Tyler is an American soccer player and leads a completely different life to my husband. While Henry is more of a homebody focused on work and our marriage, Tyler is single and makes a point of enjoying life to the full. He's always traveling, loves parties, and is surrounded by women. As far as I know, he's never been in a serious relationship. He seems to like the freedom of living without ties. But it was during a barbecue we had at home that an unexpected truth came to light. Something that took me completely by surprise and which I never imagined I would discover. As usual, I was with my husband, enjoying the tranquility of a lazy weekend. These moments were special for us as they were practically the only times he could really rest from his work at the company. When Saturday came around, I made a point of being close to him, enjoying every minute of it with no rush and no commitments. But on that particular Saturday, our quiet was interrupted by a message that arrived on my husband's cell phone. It was from his twin brother, Tyler. "Bro, I'm coming into town. There's a game in town, and I'm going to come visit you." My husband was thrilled to read the message. He and Tyler have always been very close ever since they were children. Even though their lives were so different, the connection between them was strong, perhaps because they were twins. I was excited about the idea too because I knew how happy it made my husband, and of course my brother-in-law's presence always brought an extra energy to the atmosphere. He would be arriving in the early afternoon, and Henry, with his usual enthusiasm, suggested we have a simple barbecue to welcome him. Just the three of us, something very intimate and relaxed. I agreed on the spot, knowing that it would be a great opportunity to relax together without the rush and stress of everyday life. We started to get ready, and I could already imagine the sound of their laughter filling the house, recalling childhood stories, and talking about what was new. As practical as ever, Henry quickly ordered the meat, beer, and charcoal on his cell phone through a friend who owns a butcher shop. In a few minutes, the order was on our doorstep, ready for the barbecue. I put some lively music on the stereo, and the two of us began to organize everything with great excitement. Preparing these moments together was always fun, and the atmosphere was already light and relaxed, as if the party had already started before Tyler arrived. While we were finishing organizing things in the kitchen, my husband's cell phone rang again. It was Tyler, telling us that he was already at the door. We hadn't even had time to finish everything, and there he was. Henry, who always gets anxious when it comes to his brother, ran to the door with a huge smile on his face. I stood back a little, thinking that it had been almost 2 years since we last saw each other. Even with all that time, Tyler's image was always clear in my memory. He was identical to my husband, but there were small differences that always caught my eye. Tyler was stronger, took better care of his appearance, with a more defined physique. It seemed that he was always renewing himself, probably because of his adventurous life. While Henry was calmer and more focused, but Tyler was a thrill seeker, always planning a new trip or a party to enjoy. But despite these differences, the connection between them was undeniable. When my husband opened the door and the two embraced, it was as if no time had passed. The house soon filled with their easy laughter, and Tyler walked in with his trademark charisma. As soon as he walked in, he came straight over to talk to me. I gave him a quick hug, noticing how he looked even more vibrant than last time. "Amber, how beautiful you look. It's like no time has passed for you, huh?" were his first words. I was a little embarrassed by the unexpected compliment, but I smiled and thanked him in return. Tyler had always been very direct and charismatic, so I was used to his comments. Meanwhile, Henry soon pulled his brother over to the barbecue and they started chatting animatedly. They leaned back, catching up on the news. Henry asked about Tyler's work, his latest adventures, and the things he had experienced recently. It was impossible not to smile at the sight of the two of them immersed in laughter and memories, as if they were teenagers again for a moment. I moved away a little, sitting down at a table near the barbecue with a beer in my hand, watching their happiness. Seeing how connected they were always made me realize what a unique bond they had. After a while, Tyler noticed that I was standing a little to one side and, with his usual friendly manner, struck up a conversation. "What about you, Rafa? How are things going? Life, work, what's new? And Henry's heir, when is he arriving?" he asked with that tone of playful curiosity. I talked a bit about my life, the gym, my friends, and how everything was fine. But when the subject turned to children, I was quite honest. "Oh, Tyler, now wouldn't be the ideal time. With Henry always so busy at work, he wouldn't have much time to enjoy growing up with a child. And I don't want to raise a child on my own, you know." Tyler listened carefully and seemed to really understand my point of view. He took a sip of his beer and with a quiet smile said, "You're right, Amber. Having a child is a big responsibility, and you have to be ready, especially my brother. But who knows, maybe soon. Things could change." That made me think for a moment. Tyler, despite his easygoing manner, always spoke sincerely. Even in his jokes, there was a dose of truth. We stayed there for hours, drinking, eating, and enjoying the day as if time had stood still. The music played softly in the background, mingling with the sound of laughter and the aroma of meat roasting on the barbecue, creating the perfect atmosphere. We didn't notice the time passing, but night was already falling, and the two of them, my husband and Tyler, seemed to have an infinite number of stories and conversations to catch up on. They were in total harmony, as if nothing else mattered apart from that moment of brotherhood. Suddenly, the conversation took a turn that I had expected. The subject turned to women. That always happens when two men get together, especially brothers who are so close. Henry, already a little merry because of the drink, gave Tyler that provocative look and said, "Hey, brother, tell me about it. Are you picking up a lot of women out there? How are your adventures going?" I rolled my eyes and let out a light laugh. That kind of talk no longer interested me. I knew that from then on, they would dive into stories that didn't include me, so I decided to walk away. "You're going to start with this woman talk, aren't you? I'm going to take a shower while you waste your time with that," I joked, laughing as I got up from my chair. They both laughed too, and Henry just nodded, already immersed in his conversation with Tyler. I left the yard and went straight to the bedroom, letting them enjoy this moment of intimacy between brothers, swapping stories that only made sense to them. I went into the bedroom, closed the door, and while I was getting ready for the shower, I kept thinking about how the two of them were so different, even though they were twins. Henry with his focus on work and his more serious life, while Tyler lived a light and adventurous life. I took a long shower, letting the water wash away the smell of barbecue that had stuck to my body and hair. That moment in the shower was like a break, a time of my own, away from the hustle and bustle of the two of us outside. After applying my favorite creams and putting on some fresh clothes, because the heat was stifling, I felt refreshed. I decided to go downstairs to check on them and finish enjoying the evening. Before heading back to the yard, I stopped by the kitchen to grab one last cold beer, even though I was already slightly dizzy. The shower had made me feel better, but I knew that one more beer would round off the evening. I opened the fridge, and in the silence of the kitchen, I could hear the laughter echoing outside. As I opened the can, I began to pay attention to their conversation. The voices, once just amused, were now mixed with a few fragments that captured my curiosity. Henry was reminiscing with Tyler about old girlfriends and adventures they'd had in their youth, and it took me by surprise. He rarely talked about his ex-girlfriends or old flings. It was always a subject he preferred to avoid, perhaps so as not to cause discomfort, or because he didn't think it was worth reliving the past. But there he was, laughing and telling me details I'd never heard before. I stood there for a moment, leaning against the kitchen worktop, listening without wanting to, or perhaps deep down, wanting to. Curiosity began to grow in me. Why now, out of the blue, had he decided to open up this part of his life to his brother? It was then that I heard my husband say, "Brother, do you remember Anne? She put up with both of us. The other day, I saw her married to a pastor. Can you believe it?" My body froze for a few seconds. Tyler, laughing, replied, "She's always been dirty. I'm sure she's taking advantage of the pastor, too." At first, I didn't attach much importance to the conversation about the past, young things, adventures before me, but one phrase began to echo in my mind. "She put up with both of us just fine." I stood in the kitchen, beer can in hand, trying to process it. He put up with both of us? What do you mean? Did they stay with the same woman all at once? My head started spinning, trying to understand what was going on. My heart raced and my thoughts were interrupted when Tyler unleashed another pearl. "What about that ex-girlfriend of mine, Henry? We were in a relationship for almost a year, and no one ever suspected a thing." They laughed together, as if it were the most normal thing in the world, and that's when the shock really hit me. They shared women. Was that really what I was understanding? And apparently, it wasn't just once. They had several experiences together, several stories. With each passing second, they revealed more details of their conquests and shared adventures, and I began to realize that this was a part of Henry's life that he had always kept from me, perhaps out of shame, perhaps out of fear of how I would react. My mind was racing. Part of me must have been indignant, angry that he had never told me, and yes, part of me was furious. But something inside me began to awaken, an unexpected curiosity. What would it be like to be with both of them? They were identical twins, the same in every way. If Henry was already good with me, wouldn't Tyler be too? My thoughts began to wander down a path I never imagined I would explore. Would this be considered cheating? After all, they are twins. In a way, it wouldn't be like being with someone else, right? I stood there, still trying to process everything I was hearing. My husband, the right guy, the one who had always been so straightforward and focused on his work, had already been on this kind of adventure. The image I had of him was being deconstructed with each new sentence. It was then that the conversation changed tone when my name came up. I felt a shiver run through my body, my heart raced, and I almost choked on my beer. My name? Why were they talking about me? I heard Tyler, in his usual relaxed way, ask, "Brother, she's very pretty, but she seems to be very focused, very straightforward. Have you ever done anything like that with her?" I remained static, alert, my body tense, waiting for Henry's answer. What was he going to say? He knows me better than anyone. Does he think I'm that predictable? I waited, anxious and full of questions. Before I continue with this real account of infidelity, please like and subscribe to the channel. I heard my husband reply calmly, as if he were talking about something trivial. "No, we're quite normal, you know. She's quite traditional. We never talk about these things." His tone seemed casual, but it hit me like an uncomfortable truth. Did he really see me as an ordinary woman, with no great desires or fantasies? But that was far from the truth. I had my desires, my fantasies. I just never expressed them because Henry never asked, never made room for that kind of talk. He was always direct, predictable in bed, and I ended up following. It wasn't for lack of imagination on my part. I stood still, immersed in my thoughts. Did he even suspect that I might want something different? That, like him, I too had hidden dreams, secret desires that never came true. My heart raced when I heard my husband's confession. He wanted to tell me, he wanted to experience something new with me, but he was trapped in the fear of my reaction. I heard his voice get lower, almost as if he was sharing a forbidden secret with Tyler. Dude, I've thought about something like this with Amber, but I never had the courage to say it. I think she'd break up with me, I don't know. I don't know how to start that kind of conversation. That revelation shook me. He had the urge too. He wanted to try something different, but he was stuck on the idea that I, Amber, wouldn't accept it. He thought I was too traditional, but if he knew half my thoughts, he would have understood that far from thinking it was wrong, I might be willing to explore the idea. Only, like him, I never had the courage to talk about it. My thoughts began to race. Was I really this centered and saintly woman that he imagined? In fact, I had a lot more in common with the stories he was recalling than he could ever have guessed. And then an idea took shape in my mind. What if I gave this a chance? Determined to face the situation, I walked back to the yard with firm steps, making sure they heard me coming. As soon as I entered, I noticed a change in the mood. The two of them, who had previously been laughing and chatting, were now quiet. Henry gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, but there was something different about the look in his eyes, something he seemed to be trying to hide. Tyler, normally so full of words, was now slumped, fiddling with his beer can with his hand. Henry, on the other hand, tried to disguise it by bringing up a trivial subject. How was the shower? Was the water okay? It was obvious that he was trying to change the subject, but I wasn't willing to let that pass me by. I knew what they had been talking about, and instead of bothering me, it had awakened something new in me. At that moment, I decided it was time to lay my cards on the table. I wanted to see how Henry would react to discovering that the traditional Amber wasn't as predictable as he thought. You were talking about me, weren't you? I heard my name while you were in the kitchen. You don't have to pretend I'm not silly. You can continue where you left off. I'm curious, I said, staring at both of them. The silence was immediate and cutting. Before continuing with this real account of infidelity, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel. My husband looked at me wide-eyed, clearly bewildered. Calm down, love. It's not what you think. We were just reminiscing about some stories from the past. No big deal. He tried to smooth over the situation, but I didn't intend to let the subject slip so easily. I'm calm, my love, I said, with a serenity that surprised me, but in a firm manner. I just want to understand your conversation properly. After all, what was it like? You were both with the same woman, was that it? I let the question out at once, staring at them unblinkingly. Tyler shifted uncomfortably in his chair, while Henry seemed to struggle to find the right words. It was one of those moments when he knew that denying it or hiding it wouldn't help. He looked at his brother for some kind of support or perhaps permission to continue. After a few seconds of heavy silence, Henry took a deep breath and answered bluntly, "Yes, there was a time when we did that. It was something from the past, before we got married, of course. We enjoyed life like that, but I never wanted to tell you because I thought you might not understand." I watched them both, seeing the discomfort on their faces, but at the same time feeling something strange, my curiosity, now even more intense. "And why did you think I wouldn't understand, Henry? You've never asked me what I think about this, about us." Henry hesitated for a moment before answering, clearly nervous. "The truth is, I've always wanted to, see the three of us together. I never knew how to tell you because I didn't think you'd accept it." He looked at me, visibly expecting some reaction from me, perhaps fear or disapproval. I remained silent for a few seconds, letting his words reverberate in my mind. That confession took me by surprise, but at the same time, the fact that he had shared something so intimate made me feel a deeper connection with him. And the idea, which had seemed strange before, now arose with unexpected curiosity. "Henry, you should have told me before," I replied, with a lightness that surprised me. I cast a quick glance at my brother-in-law, who was still quiet, observing our interaction. I think we can try." Henry looked at me in disbelief, with a mixture of surprise and relief on his face. He didn't seem to believe what he was hearing. "Really? You're really up for this?" he asked, his voice full of anticipation. I nodded with a small smile, feeling the tension in the room change completely. Something had been understood between the three of us, something that only those who were there could understand. I got up from the table, looked at them both, and said softly, "Let's go to the bedroom." As soon as we entered, the energy in the room changed. It was no longer just about curiosity or desire. It was about exploring something new together, without haste. Intimacy grew naturally, with touches and glances that said more than any words could express. Tyler, who had seemed hesitant before, was now completely at ease, as was my husband. It was as if that moment was inevitable, something that had been kept between them for a long time, but which now involved me in an unexpected way. What had started as an uncomfortable conversation now became a shared experience, something I had never imagined would happen. Between caresses and sighs, we let ourselves go, exploring every detail of that new world we were creating together. The connection between us was undeniable. What was once just a fantasy was now becoming a reality. And as surprising as it was, I felt comfortable and free. We stayed in the room for hours, and the mixture of excitement and discovery overwhelmed me. I'd never experienced anything like it, and I can confess that it had me hooked. The intensity of the experience left me exhausted, but at the same time satisfied in a way I'd never imagined. Having them both there with me drove me crazy. We slept there, holding each other. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming in through the window, bringing a new energy. Tyler said goodbye to us to go to his game, and as he left, I couldn't help but give him a light kiss on the lips. It was a gesture full of meaning, an acknowledgement that something had changed between us. As soon as the door closed, my husband Henry couldn't help himself. He pulled me close, and right there in the living room, we gave ourselves over to a fierce passion. The intensity of the night before was still burning in us. Our Sunday was a mixture of romance and adventure. After everything we'd experienced, we spent the whole day cuddling, laughing, and reminiscing about the night before. The connection between us was stronger than ever. Our intimate life, which was already good, was now full of new possibilities. With adrenaline pulsing through our veins, we started looking for couples or other men to add a little extra spice to our adventures. If you want, I can tell you about our second time making out with other people, which took place in a nightclub where a lot of couples go to have fun on weekends. Let me know in the comments and see you next time. And if you like this real account of infidelity, don't forget to leave your like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.